Well, I remember when I was growing up watching Grizzly Adams. I liked old Grizzly, old Dan Haggerty. If you haven't watched Grizzly Adams, well, it was this guy. I can't really remember about when it was set, maybe in the 1800s. But he had had enough of people. He decides he's going to move out into the wilderness and be friends with a bunch of animals. He met a bear as a cub, raised it up, and named it Ben. He could talk to all these animals, and they were all his friends, and they'd come by his cabin and visit him, and old Ben would play with them, and once in a while he'd get a visitor. Well, he had a dream of just getting away from it all, and in the movies, that works. But can you really disappear without a trace today? We're going to go over some of them things. Now, Grizzly Adams was make-believe in Hollywood. It wasn't a true story, I don't believe, although a lot of people used to live like that. In the 1800s, there wasn't computers, there wasn't satellites. You could live alone like that. Nobody would ever know you existed. The most modern example of somebody doing that would probably be Dick Pernicki, who left. And he was like he was in his 50s when he did this. He moved out, he found him a piece of land deep in Alaska, built him a cabin. There is a documentary, one of my favorite documentaries ever, Alone in the Wilderness, I believe it's called. And for 30 years, till all the way up until his 80s, he lived out there by himself, pretty much all alone with the animals. Birds would fly into his hand and get some seeds, and he'd make some little noises and some more birds would come and fly into his hands. Pretty cool. Some people can deal with that. Some people can deal with loneliness, and I'm one of those people. I don't call it loneliness. I call it peace. Peace. But you will see YouTube channels today. People want you to believe they've given it all up and they're moving away from society and society's ways. They're off grid. They don't want nothing else to do with society. Yet they're posting to YouTube. So that's pretty simple to figure out there. They haven't disconnected from society. It is almost impossible today to totally disappear. The government always knows where you're at. You have already left a digital footprint, unless you're an infant. And at that point, if you're born in a hospital, yes, you have left a digital footprint. There is a record of your existence. In order to be, on, you know, what am I trying to say? In order to, if you wanted to disappear today, you would have to be born in your living room by your parents. Maybe they're both doctors, and they can do that. And nobody will be told about you. And then you are raised. You don't go to school, nothing. Because everything we do today, there is a record of. You have a social security number. I don't know what other countries do, but they do similar things. So from the time you're born to the time you die, there is a constant digital record of you. Now, if you had those things and, you still wanted to get away, let people forget about you, well, you could find that piece of land, maybe in Alaska, and disappear. But you have to get permission from the government. You have to buy that land. Everything becomes a record. You just can't move somewhere and hope that, nobody's ever going to discover where you are unless you find an old mine or something and go way back in the mine. Somebody will eventually discover where you are because there's just too many people on this earth. The chances are good that somebody one day will find you. How do you think a lot of these fugitives get caught? There's too many eyes out there. They can't hide. Even if they're survivalists, they always end up catching these people. You are not always the smartest person on the planet. There are always going to be people smarter than you. And if all of that nobody finds you then, I know one group that will find you in a heartbeat. Doesn't matter where you go. I'm going to tell you a little story about that. When I worked at the ranch, okay, it's probably 40 miles from here. I drive there every day. I would take a 2-lane road, probably for about 10, 15 miles, and then I would turn off into a gravel road, go a ways, that gravel road, then I'd turn onto a dirt road, go a ways down that, and then I'd go come to the driveway of the ranch, which was almost a mile long, dirt road. I'd finally end up at the ranch house and park my vehicle. And then I'd get in a golf cart and go about another quarter mile down to my work area, which was the pasture, the chicken yard, where all the animals were. Very, very isolated. Uh, you cannot just tell somebody, hey, here's my address and show up there. It would be very difficult for them to find it. So anyway, I'm down there working. I'm on my golf cart and I'm feeding chickens, and the horses and all that are begging me for treats. Well, I hear a car pulling in. We have customers that come in. They usually meet the owner at the ranch house and he guides them down, but no, they were on their own. It was 4 ladies in a car. So I drive my golf cart up, wondering who these, because we didn't get ladies out there, okay? Wondering who these ladies are. They must be lost. Nope, they were Jehovah's Witnesses. They'll find you anywhere you go. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter how deep, how far. They will hunt you down and find you. I just looked at them. I said, ladies, I'm very busy right now. But those people up there at that ranch house, they would be happy. They'd make you some coffee, and they'd be happy to sit and talk with you. Boy, did I get in trouble for that. Hey, man, you know, I had to get rid of them, right? But you do see a lot of these on YouTube. Maybe they're not saying they want to disappear, but we're disconnecting from society, and a lot of them do to some degree. But if they're doing YouTube videos, well, they're obviously, they've got access to internet somehow, so they're doing that. You still, if you're off grid, you're going to have to go deal with the internet, or you're going to have to deal with commerce somehow to get these things. So unless you're like Dick Pernicki, who he wasn't even disconnected from society. He would have supplies brought in a couple times a year. And, to just move out somewhere and say, I'm going to live off the land, grow my own food, I'm going to live off the land, I'm going to hunt. That's tough life, man. That is a tough life. Not saying it can't be done. It can be done. It has been done for thousands of years. We're just not made for it anymore. There's very few people who could survive that type of life. Growing your own food, that's great, but you're not gonna, you're not gonna grow enough usually to last you all year. If you're gonna have to can things, you're going to have to prepare this food. You got to have some sort of power source. Uh, yes, you don't need electricity to have fire. You don't need electricity to do a lot of things, but it would be a very difficult life. You would spend your entire day just surviving. So it isn't very plausible that too many people are going to say this and do it. What usually happens is people will do the Alaska thing and I'm going to live off grid and I'm going to do this. And they don't last one winter because they can't handle it. They don't realize the amount of work that it's involved just to survive, just to stay warm. And then there's some that they can handle it. But most of the people on these like YouTube channels you see living in Alaska, they are utilizing modern technology. They have electricity. They at least have a really good solar systems. There's a few channels I watch. There's one, who are you impressing by saying you're going to just pack a shirt and a pair of jeans and head on out to the woods and that's all you need? Nobody's, if who are you impressing? You know, maybe you can do that for a few weeks. Hell, I've lived in the Everglades. You know, that's a story I haven't told yet, but it's coming up. But it is difficult. It is very hard on your body. It's very hard on your mind. You have to be physically and mentally prepared for something like that. And you've already left, if you've left society, you've already left your digital footprint. Um, you cannot be somewhere, even in the woods, where somebody isn't going to find you if they wanted to with a satellite. We got satellites up there. Will hone in on a booger on your dog. That's how good they are today. So you cannot hide from society totally. Now, to live like I do, away from the majority of society, that is much uh, more reasonable. I don't have to deal with people. I go to the people if I want to deal with people, or go to the city. That's where I can get into that kind of mess. Otherwise, I stay home, and nobody really bothers me here. Yes, I get mail every day. Occasionally, somebody will pull in, but other than that, I'm left alone, and I can go sit in my recliner and take a nap any time of the day, and not worry about somebody bothering me. Except last night, I got a call at 11:30 at night. Didn't answer it, but they didn't leave a voicemail. I could only assume it was a wrong number, but man, I was deep, deep into sleep. I was having a nice dream too. I think there was ice cream involved because I don't eat ice cream anymore. I like to dream about it every now and then. They were getting them ice cream cones, and then they'd flip them and dip them in that stuff, and then instantly, that chocolate would just freeze on there, and then you'd just take your tongue and you'd go punch a little hole in that little coating, and then just, oh, I'm going off on a tangent. Yeah. But anyway, if you ever have thoughts of just leaving society and you're going to live in the wild, why don't you graduate to that? Rent you a little shack in the country. See how you like that before you just leave your condo in New York City and, well, end up in the middle of Alaska. Know how to start a fire without lighters and matches, and know how to hunt. If you've never fired a weapon, well, you might want to start there if you're going to plan on hunting. You could trap. That would be a humane way, right? No. You need to hunt. You need to grow food. You need to learn a lot of things, and you would have to practice those things before you would move to a situation like that. I would never attempt anything like that at my age now, even though Dick Pernicki did it. That man had some serious skills. He'd made his own tools. He hiked in there with like just the head of an axe and a few things, and he built the handles and he built the tools he needed. He built his own cabin. But it doesn't show, he went a couple years ahead of time and cut all these trees down so that they would be well seasoned for his cabin. But I would enjoy that kind of life for maybe 2 months. But knowing that you're just trapped, landlocked, and you're trapped somewhere until the snow melts, that would weigh on your mind a little bit. So let me know if you've ever had those ideas of just getting away from it all. But the bottom line is you're never going to hide 100%. Maybe there are places on Earth, in the Congo or something, but anywhere you go that's so isolated that no human beings are, you're going to run into other situations. There's going to be venomous snakes. There's going to be all kind of mosquitoes. You will have something to deal with that is not pleasant. So in Alaska is the same way. I mean, the flies and the mosquitoes, those things are things people don't think about before they move there. Now, I've never been there, but from what I see on these videos of people showing these Alaskan towns, and it doesn't impress me. I mean, it is a beautiful place, but these towns are little depressing dumps. There's nothing, no beautiful towns there. Even your Anchorage and all that, they're all bland and it's always cloudy and they just look depressing and it looks like a 6-year-old built the buildings. I mean, you guys have seen the videos. There's nothing impressive about Alaskan towns, but I guess that's, they deal with what they use what they have there. And that's another thing. Everything is so expensive, fuel, food. So that used to be a dream, but for a lot of people, but I don't. I think one good thing about YouTube is you get to actually see the struggles that people have there. So, well, let me know in the comments if you have any thoughts of just giving it all up and going off to Zimbabwe and becoming a tribesman. Happy trails.